All right, whenever you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you step back with me back to high school years when we were sit there on one of the desks while we listened to one of the teachers drone on about the the history of the good old US of A? Do you remember what they said when the American Revolution happened, when we fought the war for our freedom? Does anyone think about the reason why we went to war? Why did we go to war? Someone say it. Why did we want freedom?
Taxation without representation.
There we go. We were not being represented by the government because they did not let us go and government ourselves. They did not let us go over there to explain to them what was wrong, what we needed, or anything else like that. We went to war because we wanted to have our representation. We made our own government. The founding fathers, when they made the government, they created a government that was very flexible, that could change, that would adapt as history would go, as time would pass. As everything changed, so would the government, to meet whatever the needs. 2 centuries have passed since then, and the government has basically done a 180. It is now a slave to political parties, to financial situations, and media producers. What happened? In 1910, most of our states, we had approximately maybe 44 states at that point. We were still getting more states, and more representatives were going in. At that time, by 1910, we had 435 representatives in America, and the number was just going to continue growing. At that point, Capitol Hill, the House of Representatives of Congress, could not fit them all. It had already been rebuilt from scratch 30 years ago. 30 years previously to that. Rebuilt from scratch, they completely rebuilt an entire new building that would accommodate 400 people, and it was over full. It had 435 people on the floor that were represented. So the Congress's idiotic decision at that time was to pass the Reapportionment Act. In 1929, this restricted the growth of Congress. The most powerful branch of the government has now been restricted. It was not allowed to grow anymore. It was not allowed to expand like the way the founding fathers desired it to be. We need to get rid of that now. The Reapportionment Act not only restricts the size of Congress, it also makes it that way districts will be drawn legislatively, so Congress would, so those 435 people will represent the entire nation. We have 300 million citizens, approximately 300 million citizens, maybe more. That's one person for every 700,000 people. Everyone's seen clips of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, right? At some point in history classes, you've all seen it. That crowd, Martin Luther King spoke to 25,000 people. This is about 30 times the size that one representative would represent. This is way out of proportion. This does not work. There is no way representatives can represent that many people. The Founding Fathers' original plan for this was that for approximately every 30,000 people, there would be one representative. If we go by that math now, we will probably have about 10,000 representatives representing us in Congress. That's much more localized. That's much more in-depth than what we have now. We need to get rid of that so we can be properly represented. Now, let me address something real fast that might be a little bit of concern for most people. If we have more representatives, would they not be able to communicate to each other? Would a lot of more idiots be nominated for representatives representing us? We would have to pay them as well, and also there's probably going to be higher taxes because we had to pay them. Well, first off, reps, like having not representatives not communicating with each other, we can do that now. Back in 1930, they couldn't do that. They couldn't accommodate. There was no way. They didn't have the technology. Now we do. We can keep in touch 1,000 different ways, from the phones to the touchscreens to instant messaging to sending entire drafts of legislation through the internet to each other. It's very easy now. They can pull it through. And not all of them have to be in Capitol Hill. They could be all spread out through the nation if they really had to do all their work. As for representatives being idiots or being stupid, I'd personally probably be a little more okay with that because, well, I'll probably be more personally okay with idiots. Because idiots at least do things right. Stupid people are incompetent to begin with, like Bush. An idiot that I would say that did good in his life would be Nixon. Even though after Watergate, though, he completely screwed himself over, like an idiot. As for paying politicians and stuff, yes. But with more representatives, with that many representatives, plus our deficit, their pay would go down. Their money would be gone. Money would not be a factor as part of politics as it is now. Will we get higher taxes? Of course we will. But with a $15 trillion deficit, taxes are going to go up eventually anyways. Otherwise, America will cease to exist. The good things about some good points about having more representatives would be that the legislative committees, where the actual writing of all bills and research for those bills happen, they would be able to do more work, a lot more work. They'd be able to cover more ground than before, just by having more people working on it. How would they do this work, though, with so many representatives? They could, if they had to, they could probably break down the nation into several groups or whatever. Like we have the East, the West, or Central America. We just fix that. And also, because of the size of that, there will have to be more staff. Right now, we have 8% of Americans having no jobs. My mother and my stepfather included. They have no jobs. They don't have a job. With this, there will be at least an increase. There would at least be jobs available. You will probably hate it for the rest of your life, but you will have one. Also, if people who used to try to go for the military for pay, it's not going to happen anymore because they have announced plans on a government site. They have announced plans that they're actually trying to pull back on the military, pull back and start cutting people off from there because they are going into a deficit in the military as well. And lobbyists. Y'all know what lobbyists are? Anyone? Yes. Lobbyists, people who represent corporations that want to get legislative bills for their company that are favorable to their companies, like AAA or PepsiCo, which is Pepsi's company. Then there's the candy corporations. I can't remember the name. Okay. They will have a harder job too because their job is primarily to win politicians over, to win representatives over to pass favorable bills. With this much more representatives, either they're going to have to work a lot harder or there's going to be more lobbyists. But either way, it'll be much harder for them to influence everyone. So corporations will be slowly cut out of the government with this, with more representatives involved. With more representatives, there's also more immediate awareness. With the removal of the Rich Portion Act of 1929, that would increase what would be the local awareness of the places people are representing. There's also more legislative coverage. There's more creation of new bills that would help benefit everyone in the